Hello and welcome to tonight's show.
Welcome to another day in paradise and welcome to the How Much is Sri Lanka video. In this video we are going to sum all the costs up that I had on a 24-day trip through the country. For that I visited different locations and also visited different accommodations, and that summed up to quite a bit. And then I'm going to divide the cost by 2 because we were 2 persons, and then you have the budget for 1 person for such a trip. But then I'm also going to divide that by the number of days, which is 24, so you have a budget per person per day. That also makes it comparable to other countries that, for instance, I have been to, and so I'm going to have a rank up at the end as well. And to have all that, I'm going to put all these beautiful categories down and tell you how much I spent on each and every one of these. And now, without further ado, we start with the first category, which is transportation. In this one I'm going to tell you the costs for the flights, but I'm not going to include them in the whole sum up because flights are varying so much that it depends on where you are coming from, which time of year you are flying and stuff like that. So it's not really comparable to put that into the calculation. So I'm going to tell you we spent $2,284 on the flight, which makes it $1,142 per person. But like I said, excluding that and also the way to the airport and back from the airport, that was $216. Going to exclude that as well. But for having told you everything, I include the information. So let's start with the cost that we had in Sri Lanka. There we took the bus for a total of $21, which is not much. And if you take the local bus, you can get really far. Like we drove up the coast, and therefore amount or a distance of 70 kilometers, like an hour or 2 hour ride will only set you back for like $1, maybe $2. So that is one of the cheapest and the most fun options. It is quite adventurous and it feels a little dangerous at times, but it is a lot of fun. So I can absolutely recommend this means of transportation to use. We also spent $129 on tuk-tuk rides for shorter distances, or sometimes even for a whole day. We booked a tuk-tuk and then they drove us around, especially like in the cultural triangle. That makes sense to do something like that, but it's going to be a little more expensive, sometimes even more expensive than taxi. On that we spent $56, but we didn't take them too often, so that's not really comparable. But yeah, a tuk-tuk ride will cost you a couple of dollars to get anywhere somehow close by. And then there is the train ride, which is not really transportation but more like an excursion, but you will travel from Kandy to Ella or the other way around, and that is one of the most beautiful train rides in the whole wide world, and therefore it's really expensive. It will set your budget back by $4 for 2 persons, so $2 per person, which is so crazy, which feels so crazy. It might differ if you don't go with second class but with first class, but I would suggest to go second class anyways, because it's more of an adventure. You will be in the middle of all the locals and it's so fun, and you can sit on the doorway and hang out of the train. So highly recommending that. And that brings the whole transportation point down to only $210 for 24 days, which is kind of ridiculous, especially if you keep in mind that we did a round tour and did a total of somewhat around this distance. And that is not even including the shorter ways, like inner city trips to a temple or something like that. That is just the distance for doing the round trip. Like I said, there were a lot of accommodations, a total of 11 to be exact. And for that, 11 accommodations, 24 days, that might already point to the fact that it doesn't make sense to only visit the country for a week but have more time. But like I said, I'm going to tell you about that in the next video. For these 11 accommodations, we spent a total of $990, which again seems kind of ridiculous and makes it $41 per night in average. There were some more expensive ones, but there also were cheaper ones, and I've been to Sri Lanka 5 years ago, and there I experienced you can easily find an accommodation for $10 per night, and that comes with a double bed, so you can also share that and have it $5 per person. But you can also budget high up and spend $70, $100 or even more if you like. But with $41, that were all really nice accommodations with either a really good location or with a higher standard. So yeah. Next topic is food, and this time it was only $56 in supermarkets, which were mainly drinks like water and such for trips or excursions, and sometimes a little snack at the bakery and stuff like that, because restaurants are not really expensive. We spent a total of $327 in restaurants, which in average makes it less than $10 per day, which is ridiculous. And you can easily have dinner, a really nice dinner for $20 for 2 persons, with a meal for everyone and also drinks included. So yeah, really easy, and it doesn't make too much sense to cook for yourself when you can go out and try local cuisine by someone who really knows his stuff. And I absolutely fell for the rice and dal, or Sri Lankan style rice and curry. That was really beautiful, and every chef is going to prepare and cook it a little different way, or sometimes from location to location it differs, and also sometimes it differs from day to day because they always put fresh ingredients in it. So really good, and I really enjoyed that and could have gone for that each and every single day. And if we sum those both up, we are going to have $383 for the whole food and drinks part. Easy. Next. Okay, now here we go. It's activity time. And activities, I do not like to budget on that. When I'm in Sri Lanka, like I said, second time, I'm there to do the safari, I'm there to see temples, I'm there to do whale watching, and I'm not going to save money on that, but be like, yep, let's do this. And therefore the entrance fees came down to a total of around $300. I'm going to round this up a little, and also the other costs, but in the end cost it's going to be like on the exact cent. But yeah, entrance fees was around $300 for temples, but also for other locations to get in, like the Spiral Tower in Kandy, for example. For the safari, and that was 3 of them, and I did a special video about that early on, so if you have missed that, maybe check it out later. We spent a total of $420, so it makes it $210 per person, makes it an average of $70 per safari per person, which is quite alright, I guess. Like for a safari down in Africa, you would spend way more. And maybe, yes, I can spoiler it, I liked Yala the most, and therefore that's a really good price. And then we also did whale watching. That was $75. I did whale watching a couple of times. We saw a blue whale there as well, but it was just a fin and a short while, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend to do it in the warmer regions. They are more likely to jump out of the water, I heard at least, but they didn't. So yeah, I might not do that again. Most of the activities, yes, it came down to a total of $795, so it's a lot, especially if you compare that to the accommodations and to the other costs, but yet an absolute must, and yet quite alright for the price and what you get for the price, because in other countries for the same amount of entrances or activities you would have spent way more money. And that leaves us with the rest category, and in that I have the visa costs, which were $120 for the both of us. That was quite expensive, like especially with a German passport you can get into a lot of countries without paying anything for the visa, so $120 was quite a lot, but yet it's not too bad. Then for SIM cards we paid $20. That already included the internet for the whole time. I'm not really sure how many gigabytes that were, but it was easily enough for the whole 24 days. It would have lasted 30 days, but yeah, it was enough. It was totally fine and not too shabby on the price. You can go with eSIM as well. That might be a little easier, but we bought it at the airport, so that wasn't too hard either. Then also I spent $2 on a visit to the gym. Quite cheap as well. Easy, cool experience, especially it was a very local one, not some sort of chain or something, so that was quite an experience as well. Then we had costs for washing the laundry, which was $15 for washing twice. So yeah, like $7.50 per washing. And then we bought clothes like this one and also souvenirs and spent $48 on those. And then there also is rest, like where I do not really know what it was spent on, because it was all cash money and it went somewhere, and that is $158. And I know that this is money for giving tips to someone or offerings or someone to look after your shoes when you go into a temple and stuff like that, and that summed up quite a bit, but that brings the whole rest category down to $363. I hope this will give you quite an overview on what to budget for your trip, and if you want to have exact prices for different, for example, activities, check out the playlist, which is linked up in the end, because in each and every video I will tell you I'm going to do this and it is this or that amount of money, or I spent this amount on food or a certain item or stuff like that, so you can also find that out in the playlist. And now I don't want to stress out too much, so I'm going to tell you the total amount, which is $2,745.07 in total, excluding the flights, like I said. And we are going to divide this by 2, and that makes it $1,372.54 per person for the whole trip. And that's quite unbeatable, I guess, but we'll see that by dividing it by 24, and that makes it $57.19 per person per day. And therefore Sri Lanka will rank on, I don't know, but you will see it here where it ranks. But I guess for what you get, it is such a beautiful, amazing country with nice people, so much to do, to see, to experience, warm weathers almost all year round. So $57 in average. Wow. This is a country, I didn't do it a second time by accident, but because I loved it so much, and it might be one of the countries that I will come back to because it is so nice. But before that, I'm trying to see as many new countries as some what possible. And therefore, after the next video, like I said, that's going to be how to. We are going to switch times a little and going to fast forward to a Norway trip. So from very warm to very chilly and cold. But yes, as this just happened, I'm trying to put these videos out as soon as possible. So the next one is going to be the how-to, and then there is going to be a killer teaser. I already finished cutting it and yeah, you shouldn't pat yourself too much on the back, but I really enjoyed cutting it and I really enjoyed the end result. So be hyped and pumped for that, and subscribe if you haven't done that already, so you are going to be around. And then also leave a like for this video if you found it helpful or want to help me out or something like that. And then I hope to see you sometime, somewhere, somehow around or out and about, and have a good one.